And once again, we are live with office hours from Nordcraft. Welcoming Andreas and everyone else.
Yes. So, Salma, what are we talking about today?
We have a list of things today that I have written down on a manual post-it note just so I don't forget. And I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat as well because that's a thing that we have to do. We want to first of all wish congratulations to Maria and Miguel on the Nordcraft team for reaching 1 year at Nordcraft. Well done. Well done. You successfully are able to tolerate Andreas for this long.
Hey.
Well done. That is a long cheer. That is a long cheer, but well deserved. Congratulations to Maria and Miguel. I look forward to my 1 year anniversary because it is tradition, so I have discovered today, for Andreas to bake a cake, a personally baked cake. Andreas, would you like to show everybody the cake that you baked for Maria and Miguel?
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, it's a tradition I started. I think 2 years ago now, and I didn't really consider the scale of the team at the time. So, and that it was growing, and that this sort of would exponentially become more and more difficult. I also can't share my screen right now. So, oh, no, here we are. Perfect. So, yeah, here we are. Personally, I think it went really well. Um, it's a new cake every time, so whatever mistakes I may or may not make are final. So, yeah.
I really
But
look forward
I
to my
mean, I
cake.
think it turned out pretty well.
Yep, great job.
Thank you.
I was very excited to see that Andreas was documenting the build process of the cake last night on the Discord. So I guess what we need to tell everyone is that come and work for Nordcraft, get a cake, and by the time we have 200 employees, you'll be building one cake almost every day.
I think I've already moved towards one every month for everyone who, like, it's already Maria and Miguel. We've already gotten to a point where it wasn't really sustainable to build a new cake for every employee.
New career, baker. All right, so, so the next stuff on my little manual list is I wanted to let you know that the Learn Nordcraft video series is currently in progress, and I have currently released 3 out of the initial 5 lessons for you. You can go to no clapping. You can go to the docs.nordcraft.com/learn-nordcraft if you want to check it out there. There's a little Learn Nordcraft menu item to go and have a look at the videos there. And there is a supporting GitHub repository as well, the Learn Nordcraft repository, where you can get all of the resources that you need for the lessons as well. So you can easily copy and paste some things like image URLs and API URLs and text and whatnot to make the lessons a little bit easier to manage. So I hope you're enjoying those. Do tell me if you're enjoying them because I need to know. I need to know how to be better, how to be good, and I appreciate your feedback all the time. And anything else you want to learn about as well, please let us know because I can start building out more little videos and things as part of the course as well. So that's it. First of all, anniversaries, lessons. And next, we're going to move on to a feature that we literally just released about an hour ago that we've been working on quite deeply over the last couple of weeks. And it is the new HTML element catalog. Andreas, tell us about it.
Well, yes. So, actually, I don't even think it is a couple of weeks. I think this was less than a week, wasn't it?
Well, maybe actually, yes.
Yeah.
Casper said to us in one of our meetings last week that if he was doing something like this in his previous company, it would take approximately 1 to 15 years to redo the whole HTML element catalog. And I believe him.
So we've had the element catalog for a long time, of course, and in many ways, it kind of did what it was supposed to. But one of the things we always had was like we pride ourselves in it's just HTML, and you can use any HTML element. And then we have an element catalog that only had like a small handful, right? And so we wanted to fix that. So the new one, it works just like the old one. You either click plus here, you hit I for insert. It's styled a bit differently, has a little bit of an update to match the rest of Nordcraft. And it literally has every single HTML element like there is. Like
Every single one.
We got them all. We organized them into semantic elements used for essentially just expressing semantics. So these are the ones that doesn't have any functionality particularly with them. It's not 100% true. There are a few, like SVG is in here as well, right? But generally things you use for just semantics, telling the browser or screen readers that this is a data list or a footer or whatever element is you add in. Form elements are all in here. Everything related to building forms, typography, everything related to showing text. Here, media items like images, videos, audio, foreign objects, iframes, anything around embedding media content, you find that here. And we have this whole new SVG because Nordcraft natively supports SVG out of the box. It supports the full spec. We recently just had a little bit of fix where one of the elements wasn't, one of the sort of less used element wasn't quite working, but that's been solved. So we should have full support for any SVG value now. So you can build your SVGs in Nordcraft, and especially if you want to like dynamically animate them, etc. That can actually be a quite sensible thing to do. But everything.
And you released a
around
video, didn't you, using these SVG elements?
I did one, especially these like FE, color matrix, diffuse lighting, all these SVG filters that you can do some really impressive things with. There's one around doing liquid glass effect in Nordcraft, so go check that out on YouTube if you're curious about how that works. But also just like more, simple things like, do we have any, like a path or a line or a rect or anything like that? Like if you're building a chart or some graphics that has to be mapped to your data, right? You have all of that in here now. And of course, you can still see your components, add slots, all these things. You can search just like you always could. So that functionality is still there because most people, or at least once you get to a certain point, you just hit I and you start typing what you want. It's kind of by far the fastest way of adding new elements. Right? We have this little description for each element that sort of explains what it is. And then if you want to learn more, there's a link you can click, and then it opens up the whole Mozilla developer documentation. So you can go and figure out exactly what does this thing work, how do I use it, etc. And again, it's all HTML, so it works exactly like the rest of the internet.
Furthermore, it's all open source now, the HTML element catalog in the Nordcraft repository. And so that's where all of the definitions are stored and the categories for it are stored and the way you can like search for it is stored. So if you notice any inconsistencies with anything, you can file some issues there or try and fix it yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, there's especially, I know that a lot of the descriptions are simple. A lot of them are AI generated, for being entirely honest. So if there's anything where you're going, oh, I think I can do a better job, go make a pull request and we'll take a look and adopt it. And we really appreciate any sort of help in that way that helps make Nordcraft better for everyone.
I love it specifically because I used to add HTML elements by some of the more obscure HTML elements. Previously, you would add a div and then you'd go to the attribute tab to change the tag name. And so now you don't need to do that anymore. And I think this is really kind of going to speed up workflows and also introduce you to the full spectrum of HTML elements that are available in the wild. And sometimes maybe there is a better HTML element for the use case that you didn't know about.
It happens a lot.
That's it. So great work on that, everybody, as well. And also, I was the one who was pushing for this to, in order for me to record my new video course with the full list of HTML elements. So my
Great
huge
job, Salma, for pushing for this. That's
thank you.
almost as good as the people who built it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd like to take some
I
credit.
think it's even split between Mikkel, Eric, and you for.
Yeah. But great, it makes so much sense. And moving on to a feature that is just about to be released, we have everything ready for it. And I think I'm going to end up talking about this earlier than I expected, because I'd like to welcome Eric to the stage to talk about this well anticipated new routes or routes feature.
Well, I'm gonna let him come in here and talk about then, because we only
Yes.
have one studio at the moment.
There we go. Isn't it nice having an office sometimes? I do love the Nordcraft office. Oh, Eric's actually joined himself. Well, Andreas can't hear me now, can he? I don't know.
No, I think he left.
Eric's here.
And also my camera's not working. No.
Go into the studio. Oh, it's because you have Riverside open in other tabs. Ask Eric to close all other browser tabs open with Riverside.
It says I should keep it open though.
Well, you have more than one tab open, apparently.
You're just leaving Salma here now.
You're just leaving me
Leaving her alone.
just to vamp. I'll tell you what.
But I
I'll
can't
play,
take your computer though.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll
Just
play
sit
a
down.
tune.
Oh, you need
audio.
to.
Okay.
Please hold. We are waiting to restore service to you as soon as possible while the people in the office get their act together. Please enjoy this hold music as it happens.
Hello.
That was perfect timing with the music.
Now I am Andreas with focus issues.
I don't know how to hide you though from the session because you are still there. So I'm going to mute it. I can't hide you. There we go. You're gone.
Yeah.
Welcome,
I left on
Eric.
The other computer.
It's nice to see you in HD.
Sorry about that.
It's no, we never have a good
yeah,
time on
I'm not
office
so
hours.
technical. It's just, okay, yeah.
Wow, so tell us, Eric, about Roots. Tell us what's
Yes.
going on.
Well, I prepared some links on my other machine, but let's see if I can if I can find them here. So yeah, routes. We have been working for a while on this. So I think we will split it into two. So we have two new features baked into one, if you like. So the first part is the most common use case, I think, which will be redirects. And I think for a lot of use cases, redirects are really useful. We used them a lot recently for our whole rebranding from Total to Nordcraft. And we had to set up a lot of redirects from the old application to the new one, especially for our docs. And I'll show an example in a bit. And I think that redirects is, sounds simple. You go from one place to another, but there are certain things that are, especially when you do a little bit more complex stuff, you need to take into consideration how you're gonna model your destination URL, if you like. So I guess I can share my screen here. Screen. Good. All right. So let me start by finding our documentation. Oh, there it is. So the routes are not fully live yet. They're still feature flagged. I know a lot of you know how to enable those. But we have the documentation here. I'll just preview it so we can see what it looks like. There we go. So under pages, we now have a redirects section and a proxies section.
You are only sharing a tab, and we can
Yes.
still see the GitHub repo.
I will share this one then. Here we are.
Would you like to zoom in a little bit, please?
Yes, I'll do that as well.
Thank you.
So the documentation will be live, assumingly tomorrow, along with the actual UI not being feature flagged anymore. But it is sort of documented how you set up these redirects, and I'll show you as well in a bit. So that's the setting of a redirect. For redirect, you can have a source, which is the page in your Nordcraft application, and a destination, which will be where the user should be taken when they visit that specific source. And then we have the proxies, but I think I'll get back to those after we've established how it works. So since I'm on a different computer now, let's go to nordcraft.new. I'll share this one. So I have a brand new project here. So with the new, when you have the feature flag enabled and you add a page, the dialog looks slightly different from before. So instead of just allowing you to add a page, you can now also add a redirect or a proxy. So in this case, let's pretend that we were moving from Toddle to Nordcraft once again. And I'll set up a redirect for docs. So when I set this up, on the left, I have the source, meaning the URL in my Nordcraft project, which in this case should just be on docs. Then on the right, I have the destination or the redirect to, which in this case will be docs.nordcraft.com, like that. We'll try to preview it, but not everything can be previewed in an iframe. So sometimes you might just see an error, but you can always click down here to actually visit the source. So if I do that, you can see I'm actually ending up on, no, you can't see that because I have to share the tab. But let me just quickly grab the link here. So we open DevTools. Do you see the DevTools?
I do not.
You do not. Great. I have to share more then.
Are you just embarrassed about the number of tabs you have open to share your full application?
Right. No, but this is Andreas's computer, so I'm
yeah.
I'm not really embarrassed. Share. Share something else. Window. Entire screen. Let's try that. You see the DevTools now?
Yes.
Good. So this is the URL I wanted to type in. So on /docs in my new project. If I hit enter on that one, let's see. Yeah, then in the network tools, you can see that we have the first request here to /docs. That returns a 302 with a location header that actually takes us to the new docs. So this all happens server side, and you didn't have to configure a whole lot to go from /docs to a completely separate URL. Now this is really cool for migrating things from one project to another, or maybe just for redirecting people to the correct place. We also have a few blog posts that we recently renamed from something that included Toddle to something that included Nordcraft, and then we made sure to set up a redirect for search engines and crawlers and whatnot. Let's say we wanted to make this a little bit more interesting. So in this case, on our old page, we actually had something, we had pages on /docs and then a topic. So we changed this into a parameter, could be something like, I don't know, actions. Now for the destination URL, instead of just sending people to docs.nordcraft.com, we could send them to actually use the route parameter from the source here. So I can access the slug that I just defined. In this case, it would be actions. And now when I open it, like this, I will now be taken to /actions instead, because we defined that. And you can do pretty advanced things here. I mean, the number of path parameters on the two don't have to match. You can have query parameters and hash parameters as well. And then finally, we added this enabled formula, which allows you to configure the logic for when this redirect should actually be applied. So this is for more advanced use cases again, where maybe you have a redirect that should only apply for people who have a certain cookie, or for people who have a certain browser language, or maybe you don't want to enable this redirect until a certain date. You can sort of define all these things with the enabled flag. So yeah, so maybe you run some redirects only for a period of time, and then you disable it again. Yeah.
Love it.
Any questions so far?
No questions in the chat so far. Keep them coming though if you do, and we can answer them afterwards.
We'll go a little bit deeper then. So proxies. We call them proxies because that was the best term we could come up with. So in our terminology, a proxy is not to be confused with API proxying, but the proxy will take you from, will take the content from some URL and put it on the URL that you specify for your project. Now, when is this useful? That's a good question. I think there are a few use cases that we can think of. One of them being, imagine you're moving your blog site from a Next.js application to Node.craft, which is a wise move. But you have a couple of pages that you're not ready to build in Node.craft yet. So you actually just want to use the pages that you had in your Next.js application. Well, now we actually let you just take the raw HTML content from those pages and put it in your Node.craft project. I don't think HTML is the best use case for proxies, but it's one use case at least. The other one being, maybe you have a certain service, say Discord, and Discord wants to verify that you actually do own your domain. So they ask you to put a certain TXT file on a given path. And previously you couldn't do that in a Node.craft project because we didn't allow you to do that. But now you could actually just serve that TXT file from somewhere on the internet, a CDN or whatever, and we'll make sure to serve it if you configure it. So let's show an example. So first I'll just see if I can remember this URL that I did on my other computer. Yeah, so this is a JSON endpoint that serves all the actions that we have available in the editor. And now in my project, I will create a new proxy, and I want to say, on let's call it actions. So on actions.json, I want to serve this URL. And now, well, actually failed to preview it, but either way, this means that the content of that URL that I just showed you over here will now be served on /actions.json in this project that I'm building. So let's try and preview that. So if you can see that right now, the URL is still in my project. I have this actions.json, but it's actually serving the content from the endpoint that I set up. So this is, again, as I said, really useful for when you have to prove that you own an application, and for a number of other use cases. I think, and the way we implemented this, it even allows you to override things like robots.txt, sitemap XML, and maybe you also need, because you're running Google Ads, there's something called ads.txt. Previously, we didn't allow you to do that. So, so this is a new way of serving things from your own domain that originate somewhere else on the internet.
So good. And I think it was one of those things that was holding me back, I think, from rebuilding my website in Nordcraft, because I have quite a few things like sitemaps and all those things that I wanted to be able to easily configure to be served from my domain. So I'm looking forward to using that.
Yes, we hope to release this tomorrow, and I should mention this is a paid feature, so you have to be on the startup plan, just like if you want your own domain.
The best features are paid features.
Usually, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Eric. We do have no questions so far, but we can now take questions about anything else as well. And what are you excited about? Do you have any feedback about the HTML catalog, the Roots feature, or Andreas's cake that he showed us right at the beginning? How
Cake
was
was
the
really
cake,
good.
Eric?
It was really good, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit disappointed that I haven't received a slice yet. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
in the
I'm
post.
sure it's in the mail soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. All right. We have awesome from Benjamin. Thank you, Benjamin. I agree. And again, everything will be documented. Everything will be released out onto the documentation. One of the great things that we are doing right now is with this fantastic new documentation site we've got, we're making sure that every new feature that we do update has supporting documentation. And when we do change features, we update the documentation as well. So it should be the source of truth. But again, if you do notice any issues with the documentation, you can submit issues, you can edit articles yourself. And we have had quite a few contributions from the community, both from in the Discord and from outside the Discord as well, which has been really, really great to see. And no change is too tiny to address. Gerson says, Salma, I heard you were a musician and transitioned into programming. Can you talk a bit about this? I can talk a bit about this. Eric, you probably don't want to stay for this, but I can talk about this. Maybe you do want to stay. Maybe you want to ask me some questions, but you can feel free to leave. Maybe Andreas wants to come back. I don't know.
Yeah, let's see. I'll jump off now.
Okay. Thank you. See you soon.
Yep.
So yeah, I was did a music degree. And I am a qualified music teacher. And I think that's why it was so perfect for me to go into developer education. But in between being in developer education and being a musician and a music teacher, I got into tech. I actually have a YouTube video that, maybe I've unlisted it because it's old, about how I got into it. It's a very long story and I'll try and make it really, really short. I quit teaching. I ended up in a bad school, so I quit teaching. And then I went to work for minimum wage at a call center. But in that call center, I met someone who saw all of my graphic design experience on my CV, on my resume. I used to do graphic design for musicians and album art for musicians. And I used to build them websites using visual website builders like iWeb. And I did know a bit of CSS and HTML, but I was doing everything in a visual site builder. And so I went to this place to get this job as a graphic designer. There wasn't much graphic design involved in the job. I was mainly writing blog posts with sales affiliate links in them. However, there was one IT guy there who built everything, the back end, the front end, the infrastructure, and his own CMS. And I sat on the same desk as him and I said to him, "Hi, I want to build stuff like you do. Can I get involved?" And we didn't ask permission from the owners. So basically I moved my computer around next to him and he threw me right in the deep end. We were writing PHP. We were building out this thing. And back in the day, it was 2014. And back in those days, responsive design didn't really exist, really. And most websites, applications, they would have a separate mobile and desktop version of the site. It'd be two code bases, basically. Whilst I was at that job for 6 months, I don't know how I did it, successfully merged the front end and the back end into one responsive application. At the time, it was using Bootstrap CSS. And anyway, as I moved on from that job, I got a series of front end jobs. I became a tech lead. I was a tech lead for about 5-6 years. And then when COVID came in the pandemic, I discovered that there was such a thing as developer education, developer relations, that kind of thing. And in 2020, during the second lockdown or something, I got my first job in this area of tech at Contentful. And then I had a series of other developer education related jobs, which led me on that fantastic journey to Nordcraft eventually. And so that's it. That's and I do have a blog post / video that I have been wanting to write for a long time about how writing music, because my degree was in composition, about how writing music was exactly the same as writing code. And I think Andreas agrees as well. It's the same thing. It's the same principles, the same concepts, the same idea, the way your brain works. It's the same. And I think that's why I liked getting into building websites and coding so much, because it used the same parts of my brain as writing music and being a musician. So that's my story.
Actually, the mathematical field of category theory applies very well both to music and the style of sort of functional programming that we also use in Nordcraft. And knowing that in no way helps you learn either of those two things.
Very
Not at
true.
all.
I was wondering where you're
Not even
going with
helps a
that.
little bit.
Yeah. So that's it. That's thank you for the question. Interesting question. I also, in the first Pixels with Purpose podcast, I think we talked a lot more about that, didn't we, Andreas?
I think we that was the whole episode, wasn't it? Getting into who is this person.
There I am. So
what is
you can
she-
go
what is she
and
doing here?
check out the Pixels with Purpose playlist on YouTube, where all the episodes are listed. Yes, I agree. Writing music and code are very similar. They are. And I really need to get that out of my head, that piece of writing or whatever it is. Cool. And do you have any questions, Andreas?
No.
Good.
No, I met a software engineer that was into knitting, and that's particularly funny because not only are the two actually similar, they have a shared history. Because one of the first early computers, technically, was the automated loom or the Charles Babbage knitting machine. So computers were invented for knitting. And then people figured out they could also do other things, which is
Maybe that's why I have one of my hobbies that I have. I do cross stitch, like really big cross stitches, like as tall as a person. And one of the great things I love about it is when you do these complex pieces, you really have to plan your journey with that piece of thread to optimize the usage of the thread and optimize the crosses and optimize where you end up so you can start the next thread in a sensible place. And I think there's a lot of logic involved in that. And I really enjoy how there are similarities between that too.
And this is just like a warning to everyone in the chat that if you don't add any questions, we will keep talking about knitting, cross stitch, potentially get back on baking.
Yeah.
Like it could happen.
How is baking like building a website,
It's
Andreas?
really not at all in any ways like building a website. No, I pride myself in being quite good at building a website.
It's funny because I kept saying accidentally in the intro, building a cake rather than making a cake.
No,
By the way,
it's a layered cake. It was built. That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
I must apologize to the chat that my sound effects were not working previously because I only had preview on. So here I was dancing like an idiot to nothing.
I was noticing that, but I wasn't going to say anything.
Well, now I fixed it.
Speaking of Pixels with Purpose, we are actually all up to date and all the episodes are out. We had to skip a week because we had a cancellation, but we will be back
We will be
very
back.
soon, which is, I think, early next month. We have the next one scheduled. No, late this month. End of the month, we have the next one.
Yes,
out.
we do. Oh, and just a little PSA, there will be no office hours next week because I am traveling to the Nordcraft office again for the fun and games of a summer party, and I do hope there will be more cake.
No.
Boo. Boo. We have something in the chat. Short introduction of the improved AI assistant. Generate workflows and formulas. Brief soundbite. How AI is not magic regarding Nordcraft. Maybe vibe coding only leads you so far. I mean, Andreas has talked about this a lot on the blog.
Actually, we're beginning to talk about how we need to talk about this less.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems like it's all we are talking about. But yeah, I think so. It is kind of magic, though. I don't 100% agree, but it's not complete working magic, right? We have a version. We've been really diving in and taking the approach with AI that we needed to learn before we started to build. So we had been on exploring adventure with AI. The very first version of generative AI in Nordcraft actually happened like almost a year ago. I built a feature I called Ask the Unicorn. It was not very serious because it was never going to be released, which was just about having it generate like HTML for you. And what we kind of found was that it was really fun to play with, but it was essentially useless past the first couple of like play episodes because it never actually generated the stuff you wanted. And if you knew what you were doing, you could usually do it faster yourself. So we ended up saying, actually, we thought this was kind of counterproductive to have with people, like the idea that you would like the start with AI sort of mentality. I think a lot of people are leaning towards this. And everything we've tried so far with the start with AI actually says, well, starting is when you make all the core decisions. That's when you decide on your architecture. How do you want to do A, B, and C? This is like the best place to have humans quite close involved, right? And it's actually later on when you are like mimicking what you've already done. I need something like what I've always done, but one more of them, but this kind, right? That's actually where AI gets much better. So we sort of learned from that and moved on. Says, okay, let's see what we can do. We are going to release something very, very soon. But the first release is not going to have a ton of flashy features. It will include a much better AI, just pure conversational. It's going to be based on Claude 4. It's going to have a much better sort of knowledge retrieval system for understanding our docs, etc. So it'll just have a better understanding of Nordcraft. It'll also be very good at generating custom actions and formulas. So anything like if you need something in code for some reason that you don't want to do it in the formula editor, or is it something that can't yet be done in the formula editor, you'll just be able to ask it. And like the experiments we've had so far says that it pretty much aces it every time if you give it a good prompt, because actions tend to be quite small, well-defined functions, right? So that'll be the first version. It's just a quality of life improvement. Like if you are writing custom actions, it just saves you time, right? And then we're looking at having it actually generate formulas like Nordcraft formulas, having it generate workflows, having it explain workflows and formulas at the same time. So it kind of works both ways. And then we're sort of moving on, giving it more and more features as we're going to progress, having it be able to do more and more. But again, the goal is still to use it as a teaching aid or as a way to automate things that would be monotonous. Right? So the boring, like make it do the boring stuff so you can do the fun stuff, right? If you're looking
Talking-
for a vibe coding solution, that's not really ever what we want to do.
Talking of fun stuff, I wonder whether anyone in the chat has seen the new Nordcraft homepage that was updated not so long ago, and about how we are starting to talk about Nordcraft. Whether you think that is a valid discussion.
I think that might be interesting. And we sort of started this way back when we chose a name and saying we're going to focus a lot on developers and designers, and we are, because Nordcraft is a tool for developers, designers, and for anyone sitting out there and going, but I'm not a developer. Well, I mean, I would disagree, because if you're using like the kind of tool Nordcraft is, means that by using it, I think by definition you're a developer. If you make the UI, come up with that yourself, I think you're also a designer. Like we can always debate how good each of us are, right? Like we're all progressing, but I don't think we need a bar for what we consider a developer. But I think what for me is important is that it becomes a journey where you start, like everybody knows whatever they know at whatever time they are. It doesn't matter if you're better or worse than the person next to you. It's just the point in time, and over time you get better, right? And that's kind of the point. Like Nordcraft is built so that you can keep progressing. Like there's not going to be a now I learned all of it, because when you learned all of what Nordcraft can do, you realize that it can do more by combining it in different ways. It is the web platform, right? And for us, this is such an important point, that it's not about learning it and then be done. It's a continuous journey forever, and that's what it means to be a developer. That's what it means to be a designer, right? We're doubling down even more. I'll share the screen so people can see while we're talking about it. I will not. Oh, there we are. Let me just add in. People probably have seen it. Yes, so we changed it a little bit, and we have a very specific focus on designers, because we believe that the people who gain the most from Nordcraft as it is today are people with a good sense of design, but may not have all the JavaScript skills to build a full working React app. They might understand like HTML, CSS and a little bit, but you might not be at a level where you're like, you know, fully into what on earth hooks are in React, that kind of thing, right? And I think that's where Nordcraft really comes in and from day one adds a lot of value. That doesn't mean it's not for everyone else. That's just an attempt for us to say we need to find out who do we think it's most valuable for initially, because that's going to let us grow the fastest. It's going to help us build a big community of people that are constantly learning Nordcraft faster, right? And yeah, so that's kind of the focus we had. We want to showcase the product because we tried a lot of different things around how do we explain it. I think we're getting closer and closer. I think we're getting more and more to the point all the time. And we can kind of see that as well. We talked to a lot of people about it, tried to get sort of a feedback, and generally the overall feedback is that it's becoming clearer. I would love to hear your, like, if you have any thoughts about the design and our messaging, please share them in the chat. I would love to know, or share them with me afterwards, right? We're also adding a lot more text to it, actually. Like we're even adding more pages than this, so that when you know about the editor, there'll be a learn more. Right now it points to the docs, but it's gonna point to a whole site where you can dive in. So for people who are not really ready to build yet, but just want to understand what it is, like there'll be a lot of information that you can take away from this, right? It was a little bit light before. So we'll have more things coming out. We're adding a couple of more pages around the editor, around the underlying framework, all these things that explains it a little bit better, a little bit more visual. We're also adding a new sort of, we add a new header here for easy accessibility for people. We're also adding a point of like the sort of solution point of like, well, what does it mean? What does this tool mean for designers? What does it mean for developers? What does it mean for agencies, etc.? And actually, Lee Russell here from our community and from Discord, we did a video. I don't think we released it yet, did we? Have we?
I think it's still unlisted.
Oh, it's still unlisted, but it's coming out very soon. About the benefit of using Nordcraft as an agency, and we're turning that into a whole web page around that with that video at the center to sort of, again, tell that story. So, we got some questions. Designers should build is a great angle. I agree.
I agree.
We've been fighting with the whole designer should code for like at least a decade, and I like the sentiment behind it is right, as in the current status quo is not working, but I don't think the solution is getting everyone to write React.
Derek says it would also be useful to have another tab that possibly displays the formula editor and how it marries up with the front end visual editor.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we're trying to do all with this is sort of communicate what it can do without like over giving like information overload, right? So, I'm sorry.
Please hold.
We tried a lot of different angles, especially when talking to designers. One of them was saying, well, look, it's just like Webflow. You can design. Don't worry about all the complexity yet. You can learn that later. And then we realized that people were like looking at it like it was Webflow. And a year ago, it wasn't quite Webflow, right? So it just kind of looked like it was Webflow. So we needed to get the logic and the data in to sort of showcase that we could do something different. And then the response there was like, but this is nothing like Webflow, right? Because I'm all doing programming. So I think now we've gotten to a point where as a design tool, Nordcraft is really, really good on its own. And we don't need to sort of say, but hey, we can also do all these other things, because we can, and it's important. But just as a pure tool for building a website, I think Nordcraft now can match up against the best ones, right? So now we can actually have a story that's a little bit more, you do not need to learn everything on day one. You can take it slow, you can follow the courses, etc., right? Again, you can learn slowly. So that's kind of also explains why these things are changing every 6 months, right?
And that's also a nice angle as well, like the whole learn slowly thing, because I think there's so much pressure in the industry to learn things ASAP now, do this fast, and it can get very overwhelming.
Because you're gonna get replaced.
Yep, apparently.
Right now.
Are you going to replace me tomorrow with AI?
Yeah.
Now I've made
Or
enough
by something
videos.
else.
You can train an AI to make videos of me and you don't need me anymore.
If you're not constantly worried and stressed out, you're not doing it right. When in reality, like all of Nordcraft is just technology that's been around for what 30 odd years, right? And we added, we smacked a UI on it and put a framework on, right? The reality is that technology doesn't actually move very fast. Like, learn the fundamentals, learn those things that are long lasting, and then once you know those things, once you know how HTML and CSS works, once you know basic programming with Nordcraft or JavaScript or however you learned it, learning the next thing doesn't take that long. So you don't have to be constantly worried about, am I learning the right thing? If you're just progressing, you'll be fine.
Wise words from Andre.
Yes, and stay curious, keep learning stuff. Don't worry so much about whether it's worth learning. Like, worry about if it's interesting. That's a much better indicator.
Yes. Love it. I'm enjoying the green swirls on this page too.
Yeah, we got so we released the mouse. I made a mousetrap package a while back, which is just a slightly easier way. I can actually. I don't know if I've right. I don't know if any people have seen it, right? But the basic idea is to make it easier to. Oh, here we are. It's got terrible accessibility. That's on purpose. It's make it easier to do like mouse hover effects, right? And so here's like a spotlight effect, and it's basically got. Oh, what on earth did I do there? There we are. So here's like a simple spotlight effect, and what it's really doing is just it's got like one component that's called the mousetrap, and then this spotlight is one called mousetrap follow. And so mousetrap follow, just, I don't know why I added a background to this one, that kind of ruins the whole effect, right? But it just kind of follows this whole element, right? It's supposed to only be the apple. I need to fix that. It shouldn't have a background.
Live demos.
But you can also just get the actual relative mouse position compared to the container, which makes it really easy to do sort of drawing things like this, right? Or again, since I know the position, I can map that onto like a transform to do these kind of effects. And I don't need to go and get like bounding boxes and stuff or anything. Like there's just one component that every time I move the mouse, it emits an event saying what is my absolute position of the mouse or my relative, like from 0 over here to 1, right? And then all I need to do is sort of just map that to a CSS variable. And the other thing we had was this rotate, where it all just does it like a rotates towards the mouse. And so this is just like a one component with a bunch of components inside. So it's really easy to actually build this kind of thing. You can see the example here. There's a little view example in each. So all this does, right, is it's like this mousetrap component, and then there's a mousetrap look that's repeated for each of these arrows. And that's it. There's no logic or anything. It's just these two components, and then inside this SVG arrow, right? And when you do that, like the component kind of does all the work for you, right? And then
How does this relate to your green swirls? Were you going to say something about the green swirls in the mouse?
So we added like these effects here. We actually use it consistently, just for less aggressive effects, right? So this little height sort of shimmer effect is following the mouse, right?
Can't see it.
I need to be better sharing the tab. Here we are. I'm really happy you're there, because otherwise I could have done this for like a solid 5 minutes. Yeah.
I know you would.
So like here, the button, when you're hovering it, you get this like nice shine effect that follows the mouse. And again, that is just a div with a drop shadow on it. I think Casper made this one. I'm pretty sure it's just a drop shadow that's inside this mouse follow component, and then that automatically does that. Our tooltip here, again, same thing. Like all that, it didn't require us to do any formulas or anything. It's just smack two components together, and it kind of handles the rest for you. So these kind of things are just very easy to build with it. I think we did the, I don't think I can show the, I think Casper had a whole nice one with arrows, like Nordcraft trees that follows, like these kind of style, that follows the mouse on a new page is building about Nordcraft for designers. But we'll share that when it's ready. I don't want to spoil anything now.
Real dog fooding. Everything you make, we just put on the website.
Yeah, pretty much. Eventually, we probably need to look at whether it's beginning to slow down, but it seems to be pretty fast still. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that demo. I think we're probably ready to wrap up today. So just what did we do? We went through Maria and Miguel's 1-year anniversary. We talked about how I released lessons 0, 1, and 2 of the new Learn Nordcraft video series. We talked about the new HTML catalog that has now been released, which supports every single native HTML element in very well organized categories. We had a look at the new roots and proxies feature, including the documentation. Got a demo from Eric, and that will be released tomorrow, fingers crossed. And then we had a chat about being a musician. And then we had a look at the new Nordcraft homepage and the mouse trap component. And there will be no office hours next week again, because I'm going over to Denmark. But we will see you in 2 weeks. And I hope you had a great time hanging out with us. Thank you for the questions. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. And if you missed it and you're just tuning in, everything is on YouTube for you, so you can catch up and watch the full session. And with that, again, as I always ask you, Andreas, any last words?
Thank you, and see you not next week.
Now I'll play the music, and we will finish this properly and make sure that we have a bit of a clap. Oh no. Well, I'm a terrible producer. I'm going to end the stream now. Goodbye, everyone. Welcome next week. Welcome. See you soon. Bye.